Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a very good day to everyone. My name is Adam Zikri bin Basrisam. I'm from Applied Mathematics at TPKI. Today, I'm gonna talk about environment and I'm gonna discuss about climate change. Yay! What is climate change actually? We usually hear people messing their head up and talking about climate change, and yeah, climate change is gonna affect our earth, our environment long term in the future. What is climate change actually? Climate change describes changes in average conditions such as temperature and rainfall. I can give a few examples for you guys to visualize. Climate change can be perceived after a past few thousand years. For example, United States of America as we see today, the land of free. Actually, it was covered in glacier 20,000 years ago. Yeah, surprisingly, it's a fact. And we can see that today, United States of America has not much of a glacier anymore. There's not much of glacier left. So it proves that the earth is changing over the past few thousand years, and we're gonna face it as well in the future, long term in the future. Well, it's just one fact that can we see in the long term conditions, right? But in a few years, people take it easily. People take it not as important as they can see, because the change isn't much. As we perceive, the change isn't much years to years, but it affects us in long-term conditions. Seriously, I'm saying. Because based on my understanding in mathematics, numbers never lies. Based on statistics and mathematically understanding, it's proof that Earth is changing years to years. I can give a few proofs that it can affect us in the future. It can harm the humanity in the future. First of all, the rising sea level. We saw in the news, we saw in the newspaper, but we ignore it. We saw it in the memes and use it as jokes and all that. No, it's not a joke. It's not even a fantasy thing. It's not even a sci-fi thing. It's a really a fact that we are in right now. Our generations in the future is gonna face the fact that they have to face the climate change that may harm them. Yeah, and the shrinking mountain glacier at the coldness region, they're shrinking years to years. It might not be much to be perceived over years, but it's mathematically and statistically proved it's shrinking. So do the ice melting. The iceberg is melting in Greenland, in Antarctic, in Arctic. Everywhere in coldness region is melting. Thus, the sea level is rising up, and our region of land could be covered with flood in the future, in long term in the future. It may harm our generations in the future, our next generations in the future. How are you going to explain to the next generation of us in long term conditions if this happened to them, right? And it's not much, but we can see in scientifically proved that the planting, the flowers, blooming time are changing. The way they behave in their habitat is changing. It's scientifically proved, and scientists have made research about them, and they quite amazed why it changed from years to years. The timing, the durations of blooming time, the durations of hibernations of certain species, they're changing over years. Why? It's because of the climate change. When the weather change, when the environment change, the habitat will change. That is the fact. And we are not living in the fantasy. Earth's climate has constantly been changing over years, and we will see in long-term conditions. We will be living in ice age. This is not just a fantasy movie, sci-fi movie like The Darkest Hour or The Tomorrow. No, this is a fact, and I hope that people take it seriously right now, today, and every day, every moment, always. I'm Adam Zikri bin Basrisam. Thank you very much.